Hello, everyone. Minasan, konnichiwa. I'm Tori Martin from the Digital Transformation Division of Fujitsu. And welcome to the Fujitsu Transformation Podcast. All right, transformation is hard. It takes trial and error. It takes patience. It takes energy. One thing I've learned is that we are not on this journey alone. There are many people and many companies that are figuring this out. And that's a wonderful and powerful opportunity to collaborate and to be inspired. Now, the inspiration for this podcast series, and we've got something like 90 episodes down already, it came from my teammate Rui, and we call him Rui the Professor Rocha. Rui's a kind of DX professional who brings like quiet intensity and a flood of ideas to any challenge. And he also really pushes the importance of networking. And I got to say thank you to Rui for introducing me to today's guest. I'm very happy to have Christy Raphaël, Corporate Communications Specialist for Murata Electronics Europe, with us today. Christy is based in the Netherlands. We work in different companies, but I found that our transformation journeys have more in common than actually I expected. So I'm really looking forward to exploring more with you today, Christy. Thank you.
Hi, Dory. Yes, nice to meet you. Thank you. And thank you for having me here today. I'm really
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Before we jump into transformation, can you tell us a little bit about how Fujitsu and Murata are connected?
Well, yeah, of course. So, how you already explained, one of my colleagues in our digital transformation project actually organized this innovation day, and he reached out to your colleague Rui, and he came to our office, and that's how I met him as well. And I was thinking he exuded already the atmosphere of a professor, so I was like, this guy can teach me a lot. So,
Uh,
so I annoyed him very often with questions, and so I work mostly in communications, also internal communications, but also shaping the messaging of a company to other stakeholders. And I just felt like he had a lot of good insights and things to, yeah, that I could ask him for on advice. So yeah, I reached out to him quite often, and he gave me a lot of advice on how to improve town hall meetings or how to basically apply certain innovative thinking into new aspects. So yeah, that's why I'm here today as well.
Awesome.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
And our two companies have like in common the fact that we're Japanese headquartered companies,
Exactly.
and we both have global employees from all different cultures, and that's an interesting setup. I think we
Yeah.
have a lot to share, and I'm really glad that he put us together, and we could talk about that more.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so transformation. What does transformation actually mean inside Murata?
Yeah, when you first asked me this question, I was already thinking, oh, it's such a difficult question, actually. But um, yeah, I think within Murata, we try to view transformation as innovation. So, how can we be innovative, or how can we transform or innovate certain processes or systems to improve? Where can we improve? I think that's how we view it. But I find it a very good and difficult question, actually. So I'm also wondering how it happens in Fujitsu. How do you view transformation?
Got it. And this is flavored by my own experience, so this isn't the official answer, I'm sure, but I would say transformation in Fujitsu is about getting people more comfortable with being uncomfortable, I guess I would
Like,
say. So taking a risk, talking about change openly, and
mhm.
also being okay with trying things that don't work. Um, it's it's like a mindset change and
Mhm.
communicating about that it's okay and it's not going to be perfect. I think that's kind of how I see transformation in Fujitsu. But
Mm.
it's in a huge company with so many different cultures,
Yeah.
transformation can mean so many different things to different people. And that's cool. That's okay, right?
Mhm.
Nice.
exactly.
Awesome. Okay. So transformation can obviously be gigantic changes or small things and probably everything in between. What does transformation look like in your own role?
Hmm. Yeah, I really like how you say that it's, of course, such a big company, different people, different cultures. I think, especially in my role in communications, I think it's so interlinked with people, and it's not even always about transforming systems or processes or how to improve, our digital channels. It's also just
Right.
very much related to our people. So I think, especially in communications, it's just related to how do we shape the message.
Right.
How I always love the talking about like storytelling. How
Right.
can we shape the message in a way that it reaches people better? How can we improve that message, right? Who are you talking to? How do you reshape the message? So I think one area in transformation is probably what you see in more companies. I think also in Fujitsu is the um, is using AI to improve our efficiency. So also with I think in communications especially, using AI is one thing, but you still need to shape the message with a human touch, I feel. So you can introduce some kind of level of transformation, but it always needs that human touch. So I feel it's interesting that you can't really measure transformation, I feel, especially in communications. I also
Right.
can't really prove that a certain way works better. How do I prove that that message resonated more with one person than the other? So I
Right.
feel that's so kind of a trick, yeah, a tricky hurdle.
Right.
So yeah, I
Definitely.
don't know. Yeah.
Awesome. I think on my side, my job,
Hmm.
communication definitely is a
Right.
key, like you said. Um, Also, like removing roadblocks. Uh, my team is looking at digital transformation across the whole company, specifically outside Japan, but interfacing with Japan. Um, and I think a lot of what we do is like make it easier to try things. So, and that could be like as easy as kind of cheerleading, like,
Yeah.
hey, it's okay, give it a try, like this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it could be like, you try this, I'll worry about all the hard stuff, the administrative tasks. Like, I'll remove all the things that nobody ever wants to do. I'll do that to allow somebody to try something new. And that's fun. Then you get to see them go, wow, hey, this works. This is actually cool and fun, and I love it. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
part I love about my job is seeing people happy with trying something new.
Hmm. Yeah, and like excitement, right? To try
Definitely.
something. So, yeah, nice.
Especially with AI, you give people new AI tools, and at first, there's some worry, there's some concern, but then
Yeah.
you show them what it can do, and it's amazing. People get really excited, and then they start coming back and showing me tricks that they've learned and how to
Oh
use it.
yeah.
I like it. The cycle just continues. It's awesome.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
to see that grow and
Yeah.
spread is really cool.
Yeah, I think
Awesome.
that's how it should be. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Now you and I have talked before about hitting walls between Japan and the regions outside Japan.
Hmm.
What do those walls actually look like in your daily work? I want to compare and see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, so this is always so fun to connect, right? Because, yeah, we might be two different companies, but we both have our roots in Japan and we are a global company. So I think even though we might be very different companies, we face similar challenges, especially with this hitting walls. I think always when I also talk with the professor, we talk about kind of the risk mindset or the cautious mindset versus the big leaping mindset.
Right.
I think we in the West tend to want to just jump head first,
Right.
and colleagues in Japan, they hold us back. They're like, no, with the first like the nemowashi, what is it called? But I think there needs to be a balance maybe. I'm still
Right.
figuring it out. I think we're all figuring it out in a company with this many cultural backgrounds. I think in general, there's always has to be some kind of middle way or compromise when you're trying to find a way
Right.
forward together. But yeah, I'm indeed always curious as well, how we deal with that. How would you deal with that in Fujitsu, for example?
Patience.
Yeah.
I think y- I find you kind of got to build it in that it's going to take longer to communicate. It's going to take longer to really understand each other. And that's just how it is. So
Yeah.
I'm an American, right? So it's like go, go, go. I want to
Mm,
fill every blank space with words, right? But living in Japan and working with my Japanese colleagues, like
mm,
that's not what they expect. So patience and flexibility. Try in a different way.
yeah.
Like gotta like you said, come together and give
Yeah.
and take and build a relationship. I think that's the big thing about Japan specifically is the relationship is
Yeah.
really important.
Trust, right? We talk a lot
Right.
about worthiness as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's longer, but then you have a relationship built really like that solid. I really like that as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, those differences, like they're differences. They're not negative things. They're
Hmm.
things to explore and then, use. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think talking about it with people in a similar situation is
Hmm.
really a good idea too. I mean, we have, our crazy stories about working with the Japanese colleagues but it's good to share and pick up new ideas. Awesome.
Yeah, and it always ignites some kind of new way of thinking for me. I really love that about working in this kind of environment. It always has some kind of like aha moment that
Right.
you don't realize. So, for example, we also get a lot of complex materials or policies or information from our colleagues in Japan. And oftentimes in my job as well as communications, I just translate it. But
Got it.
translating itself is not enough, right? You need to also
Right.
adapt it. You need
Right.
to, yeah, how do you say? I always say like storytelling or yeah, adapt it to our local audience because just simply translating is not enough. So in that sense, it's not just about also copy and pasting, but just using or adapting it to more the local context. So how do you do that? How do you try to adopt a lot of things, or do you just kind of like take it, or do you, I don't know.
It's that good question. It's that adaptation part, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yes. Yeah.
we could take the big concept and
Hmm.
then there's connection with headquarters with Japan, that kind of thing. But
Exactly.
really understanding, you use the word the audience and the different types of audience, and then adapting school, and that's where we get a chance to be creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I find
Exactly.
translation kind of boring, but
Yeah,
if
me too.
if I can add something that will help the audience understand a little bit of context, maybe sometimes a little less detail.
Hmm.
Um, it can even be like the layout of a page, how it's presented visually is
Hmm.
different. And yeah, I think that my Japanese audience, or my Japanese colleagues, are very interested to see that as well.
Hmm.
They're learning along the way as well. Um, but man, there's so much variation, and I don't know everything about every culture out there. So it's always a learning experience, right? And
Really is. Yeah.
like you said, trying to find ways to measure. Did it work? Did it work in Spain? No, but it worked in the UK
Hmm.
and it worked in Australia, but it didn't work in China. Trying to understand that is really a complicated and fun process, I think.
It really is, but it's also tricky because sometimes I feel a little bit like a not imposter, but I feel like, especially in Europe, right, with so many different cultures. But I feel like, am I really the good person here to speak for so many different cultures? Like,
Right.
does it resonate? I have no idea. I think it does as adapted from
Right.
local. But yeah, it's tricky sometimes.
Definitely. Just keep
Mm.
trying, keep learning, keep talking to people. Definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, so as we've been talking about, digital transformation, it often feels like slow and
Mm.
impossible to measure. How do you stay motivated in that
Uh,
situation when you
yeah.
don't know, is this really having an effect?
Yeah, that's really a good question. I think indeed transformation is slow and you don't always see it, right? It just goes like you said before as well. Sometimes it just needs to spread out and it'll just move by itself. Especially in communications, I feel it's really hard to measure, and so I cannot really show people this worked better than that. And oftentimes, it's questioned, like does this work better than that way? And I cannot always show the data. So that sometimes is a little bit frustrating for me. How do I measure that a message resonated with someone? So
Right.
I think myself personally, for my mindset, I try to just view it as like if this message reached just one person, I consider it kind of a success. And whether it has impact or not, I find a very different way of looking at it. So yeah, I don't know. How would you say a certain thing has made an impact, right?
Right. I I'm a firm believer in the emoji
Uh,
with the communication platforms, right? There's all the emojis. I
yes.
try to use emojis as much as I possibly can, like to pay it forward.
Like,
And
mm-hmm,
then if I get an emoji of just anything,
mm-hmm,
any kind of sign, then I know, hey, I think I'm doing my job right.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if they send me the angry face, I know that they read it, right?
That's really good. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. I like that
Take the wins where you can, definitely.
one.
All right, we work in global teams, and
Mhm,
that takes a lot of effort. Have you seen moments where some small
mhm.
action like changed the dynamic of a meeting or gave someone confidence to speak up?
I don't know if I've really like seen it happen in most contexts, but what I always really like and notice that someone becomes more comfortable in meetings is when you just simply show you're interested in their language or culture, or their background, even. So I think you might notice as well living in Japan, but what I've also noticed with my Japanese colleagues is that they really love talking about like food related things. So
Nice.
I'll
Yes.
just ask them like what's their favorite food or something as like an icebreaker. But in other meetings I'll just always, what I really love is learning little strange words from different languages or cultures and then just
Cool.
saying it. And then they always laugh or they're happy or I don't know. It's always fun to learn different words or things. And also when you learn a word from someone, that word in your brain is automatically kind of linked to them, which I
Right.
also think is quite sweet in a way. So
Definitely.
you're learning from your colleagues as well about different languages and cultures. And when you remember that and you show that you're interested or you're remembering it, then it makes the whole dynamic of these kind of global meetings you have very, very different because it's not always easy, right? The time zones, someone is waking up at 6 a.m., someone is behind their laptop at, I don't know, 2 a.m.
Right.
So you also make these kind of global connections. Yeah, I don't know, like a fun space or a nice inclusive space, I will say. So yeah.
Definitely.
But what kind of small inclusive action do you tend to do?
So I'm not very good at this, but I try to talk slower.
That's yeah, that's a good one.
My wife's Japanese, so and we don't share a common language.
Mm,
So our communication needs to be based on patience and
yeah,
understanding that we have to slow down when we communicate.
that's really
But I
good.
get really excited about things. And when I
Yeah,
get excited, I start talking
yeah,
with my hands and all that, right? But just
yeah.
slower pace. They'll understand more. It'll be worth it in the future. And then also I like follow up with people, have more one-on-ones, and just show them that I'm an open person that likes to talk
Mhm.
about just about anything. And your food one is right on. And man, the food in Japan is so good.
Good. I feel like you can talk about food in any meeting, and there always will be people who get so happy and
Yes,
enthusiastic about it. It's
definitely, definitely. That's cool. Um, All right. Have you experienced a moment where something you thought had failed, but then it suddenly like reappeared months later in a different place? I think we plant these seeds, right? And you never know which one's going to grow.
I remember we were talking about this, I think, before as well, how it can be very frustrating when you have like this idea or you plant a seed and then it gets either shot down or rejected, and then years or months later it pops up. Someone else has the same idea, and you're like, no, why? But I think recently my father said something quite profound. He said you were just ahead of your time. Like
Well,
they weren't ready when you were ready. So
nice.
that really put things in perspective, because just because you had that idea and it didn't work maybe in that moment that you wanted it to, or yeah, like you say, you planted the seed.
Right.
Maybe you don't see it, but it's still growing underground. So in that sense, yeah, I don't know. You just have to believe that it'll happen in its own timing, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, it
Definitely.
can still be frustrating. I think you just have to remember it's still good. Every
Right.
improvement is good, and
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Definitely.
It can definitely
Your
be
fa
frustrating,
Right.
right?
Your father's a wise man. That's a
Yeah.
good thing to say. That's really cool. Yeah, and be patient and I
Hmm.
think cherish those moments when you see something that you planted long ago comes back and is
Yeah.
working. It's something for write down in the diary. It's a proud
Yeah.
moment.
But it does like it does make me wonder, like, how do you actually deal with this kind of failure if it happens? Like if you really wanted something to happen and it doesn't happen, like how would you deal with that kind of failure, right? Or do you
Again,
even
it's
see it as a failure, maybe? I don't know.
I don't see it as a failure. I see it as a learning experience for me
Mm. Yeah.
that we can always do whatever it is we're doing a little bit better or a little bit different or involve different teams, different people.
Yeah.
So it's always like I see it as like practice, and
Yeah.
I hope I'm getting better at it. I,
Yeah. Yeah.
when you practice it, it feels more comfortable the more you do, public speaking or whatever. I think that works in transformation as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Good
I
point.
try not to get frustrated.
No, that's a really good point. I think also indeed I try not to view it as a failed experience, indeed, like you say, like lessons learned, or but more than whether it turns out to be a failure or a success, I think the trickiest part is when nothing happens, right? When you just did something or a project and you're like not sure if it either failed
Right,
or if it was a success, and it just kind of hangs in the air, suspended.
right.
So then I feel like I put work into something and it's just there and it's out into the world, but now what? And then I don't really feel like it always has, well, like we were just talking about, impact.
Right.
So how do you deal with that when you have something and you're not sure whether it made an impact or not? How do you deal with it?
I try to talk to people
Oh.
because maybe my perspective, I'm too focused on the words that were used or
Mhm.
the 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 delivery vehicle for it. I talk to people like different types of people, different personas to
Mhm.
say, what do you guys think? I think I probably say that a lot. I say cool, awesome, and what do you think way too often. But just to get it kind of get me out of the negativity and think,
Yeah,
how do they see it?
yeah,
That
yeah.
also takes some work though, because
It does.
if you don't have that relationship, then it's hard to get people to give you real constructive criticism.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is maybe like a cultural thing, but sometimes I feel, especially for Dutch people, not that we're negative, but sometimes we tend to be very realistic or pragmatic, and it's not very like positive. And then I'm kind of like, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. And then my colleagues are like, no, I not, no, you're being too delusional.
I've heard that about Dutch people. That you guys are very direct. Right.
So exactly, but that's the thing. They're direct and they're not pessimistic in any way. It's just they're realistic, and actually, that sometimes is a very good grounding approach for me, because I think I'm a very hopeful person. So I just believe it will have an impact or a thing like that. And I think that mindset is good to have, like a positive mindset. But
Cool.
in general, if it didn't work, it doesn't mean it's a failure, but then how can we improve it, right? I think questioning is also very good. Like you say, you ask, what do you think? Also ask, like, okay, what happened now and why did it happen this way?
Right.
How
Right.
can we make it better? How can we do this? So maybe just questioning it. I think also in Murata, we always question the why. Why are we doing this? What
Right.
is our mission? Like, what are we trying to? Never the what or the how comes later, but first it's always nailing down the why, because that's our driving force, right?
Right.
So it's always interesting to learn that, especially from different colleagues and different backgrounds and how they think. Yeah.
Fujitsu has something called the five whys, which is
Oh
actually
yeah.
a process to ask why and then why 5 times. So it's amazing. We keep discovering all these things that are so similar.
You
It's cool.
need 5 of them though. I mean, it seems a bit
Oh,
excessive.
sometimes we need 10 or 12 of them
Oh wow.
when it's complicated. Yeah, it's a
Right.
fun process. It's interesting to see that done in a different culture too. Uh,
Yeah,
that
true.
really, the first time I saw that years ago, it was very eye-opening.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay,
Cool.
call to action time. What's one thing that people out there listening that they could do tomorrow to try to impact transformation in their company?
Mm, well, maybe questioning something, like just maybe not taking everything not for granted, but just like they're doing their work, they're doing their processes, but instead of just doing it the same way, maybe they should try to ask why does this work? Why? Maybe that would be a good like advice,
Nice.
right? They try to question at least one why per day or something.
Can I
Yeah,
add a twist to it?
yeah. Go ahead.
I, I think it's very easy to pick the thing you do that you don't like every day
Sure.
and then ask why, right?
Yeah.
So
Why am I
do
doing
the
this?
why exercise for the thing you don't like, but also do it for the thing that you really do like.
I would
So,
indeed say do it for the thing that you assume is working perfectly,
right,
actually.
exactly, exactly.
That
Yes,
is good. You should question something that's completely sound, and
right.
then that's going to open up a whole new I don't know, it could also be very intriguing. Why does that work? Maybe I can apply it to something else. So yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And find somebody to share it with, right?
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
somebody in your team, find somebody outside your team, find somebody in another company that's working on
Exactly.
transformation, right? Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Great conversation. Thank you so much. I
Thank
think
you.
we can talk. We're going to continue to talk. I got one more question for you. If you
Mm.
had a magic wand, um, what bold change would you make at Murata to accelerate transformation?
Oh boy. To be honest, the first thing I would replace the magic one with like a sledgehammer and just want to completely. Sometimes I feel like I want to start something completely from scratch, just instead of like hacking away at something that's already existing. I
Gotcha.
feel like that would be a very bold way of transformation. But no, maybe I think I'll try to apply the same. Just try to question, ask myself why more often.
Got it.
I think that's something I would do. What would you do if you had the magic one?
I would, and this one I think takes a magic wand.
Hmm.
We have our culture and our cultural differences.
Hmm.
I want to be able to keep our cultural differences, but magically remove the unintended consequences of that culture. For example, like I said before, I talk with my hands, I talk too fast. My Japanese colleagues, they, they don't really like that because it's not
Hmm.
their
Yeah,
culture, right? But
yeah,
I
yeah,
still want to be me.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
don't want them to feel bad because I'm very excited about what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So I don't know if that's possible. I don't think AI is really going to help us there, or haven't figured that
Mhm.
out yet. But I think it's something I just need to keep in mind and try to be more mellow and a little bit
Mhm.
more middle of the road there. That's
I
fine.
good. Yeah, that's a good one. But I wonder, maybe not with AI, but I do think technology will make way to a whole new kind of way of communication in the future. Like maybe, you would now be talking a completely different language to me, but I wouldn't even know because it's like translated
Right.
in real time or something. So I
And then
think,
there's a
yeah,
little sign that says, it
yeah,
sounds like he's angry, but he's not. He's just
exactly.
very
Yeah,
excited. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So these kind of but I feel it no matter how far technology will come, we're still like, yeah, we're still human beings, and there's some kind of social connection, I feel, there.
Yep.
So you would be talking very enthusiastically, and I would maybe be able to understand that, but others might not. So I think those differences will always remain, but how we can navigate them or how we can, I guess, yeah, be mindful of them will change over time, and maybe we'll get better at it. Maybe we'll I
Nice.
don't know. There's no better or worse. I'm actually
Practice.
quite curious. Yeah, I'm quite curious to see how technology is going to
Right.
transform communications or how we interact in general. It's quite exciting, actually.
That's a great word. Curious. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes. Stay
yeah.
curious for sure.
Thank- Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, Christy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having
You,
me.
you got it. Transformation, it's not about quick wins, right? It's
Mhm.
steady progress, shared learning,
Yeah,
communication.
yeah,
Um, Hearing about Murata's efforts and your experience has been very valuable to me over the weeks that we've known each other already.
yeah.
And I just want to say I really appreciate you joining me on the podcast today. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I think this is a really nice show of collaboration as well, especially company to company. I think it's really nice. Thank you.
Cool, cool. Awesome. All right, before we go, let me please ask the audience, all of you out there, to connect with Christy and I on LinkedIn. And also, please explore Murata's and Fujitsu's capabilities on our sites and our social media. And we very much want to know what you think about this episode. There's a quick little episode survey linked down below. Absolutely love your feedback and really appreciate it. All right. Thank you again, Christy. It's been
Thank you.
wonderful talking to you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great day. See you.
Have a great day. Bye bye.